Welcome to Ask Rich and Ed from Procurement Says No.
Woo.
We get a lot of listener questions, which we love to answer with insightful views and advice. Now we've created a whole new way of listening to Ask Rich and Ed with bite-sized mini podcasts full of useful answers to your questions.
Ooh, nice. Bite-sized chunks.
Let's see what questions we've got this time, Ed.
Well, Rich, will they be fatuous or inane? Let's make it real.
Boom.
And this time, we've got special guest stars Graeme Hunter and Verity White helping us out. So, and this is from Elon Musk in London. Is there any data to show whether public procurement rules increase or stifle competition?
I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? I think if you've got a marketplace where it's consistently been won by one supplier and you're in danger of there being a monopoly in the market, then yes, it would increase competition. But if you're looking at it, you've got to look at it through different lenses. From an SME point of view, then probably not.
I don't have any data on it. I sort of think the purpose of procurement is to get the right stuff for government at the right price. And as long as it's not one supplier, as you said, it's not a monopoly position, I think it's maybe slightly the wrong question. But a better question for me would be, is procurement helping government to get really good services from the market at a price it can afford to pay? And like all three of you are shaking your head as I ask that question, so I think I'll just leave it there.
One of the interesting things under the new Act is how they're going to bring in the supplier performance for all contracts over 5 million. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and whether that actually waters down KPIs in contracts that are over 5 million. Because if you've got something that you have to publish every quarter on a KPI in a contract and you're just a contract manager sat in a local authority somewhere, are you going to remember or necessarily do that?
Never. That's never going to happen. When I was first a buyer, I was managing all the scoring of suppliers, the monthly performance. So, why don't we put it up on the TV screens in reception? No! You publish it, yeah, you get sued.
Everyone will say, oh, that's commercially sensitive, that's commercially sensitive, that's commercially sensitive. And actually, it's going to be, that's why I'm intrigued to see how it's going to roll out.
So, next question, and this is from Trudy Scrumptious in Chester. What are the rules on publishing notices and contract awards? And what will publishing this information achieve? Verity, you know all about this.
I mean, my head's in my hands because there are so many new notices that you have to publish. You have to publish at the beginning of every financial year. You need to publish a pipeline notice, which states every single thing that you're going to tender over 2 million in the coming 18 months. It's kind of bonkers, actually, the amount of administration that's being forced upon the sector with regards to these notices, and it's going to be very difficult for most procurement teams to do because they're under-resourced, as we said earlier. They just don't have the people anyway. And so much procurement is done outside of the teams too, because there's going to be new notices that you mandatorily need to publish. So it's the amount of administration. And technically, if you don't publish the notices or the mandatory ones, you can get a challenge.
All this publication just feels very analog to me. The publication of 18 months forward look of contracts just reminds me of like the 1990s when councils were suddenly expected to post information of every policy they were planning to update in the next 18 months. It just feels old-fashioned. There surely is a technological way we could do this rather than it being an annual publication. There's surely a way that you could have an open list that you just updated as you went through the year. I feel it's just an area where we've kind of defaulted to, oh, there's a document we need to stick on a website, rather than thinking, what's the purpose of this and how could we do it in a way that is a bit more streamlined?
Right, another question. This one is from Nigel Garage in the UK. Why don't we just scrap this nonsense, which has clearly been imported from the EU and has no place in modern British procurement? That's from Daily Mail reader Nigel Garage.
It depends on what you want from a procurement process. If your objective is just to farm out contracts to the private sector, then it's absolutely overblown. If you believe there need to be some protections to help the public get the best value for the money that they pay in their taxes, you need some regulations, and these are the rules we've got.
And finally, from Charles Wattage from Bloomsbury in London, who asks, which is a sort of a summary, really. What are the best improvements to the new regs? What are the worst changes? And what's missing, in your opinion? Who wants to go first?
I think the best improvements are if they do it properly, the supplier database will effectively be very good for suppliers. From a point of view of the worst improvements, I think it's, rather than there being the worst improvements, I think it's not thinking about how the burdens of some of the improvements that have been put into the Act are going to lie. Yeah. And I think that's my problem, is the fact that these decisions have been made, I think, with blinkers on, not thinking about how it's going to impact the actual people working in the sector. So that, for me, would be, I suppose, the worst part of it. For review of what's missing, well, the Procurement Act specifically is missing everything to do with the provider selection regime. So it's everything around healthcare, because there's a whole separate piece of legislation for that, which doesn't link to it at all, and also social value.
I think that the best thing for me is the potential for more flexibility and more collaboration with the supply base. I think that's the thing that everybody is crying out for. I'm not sure I've got a worst particularly, but I think I'd like to see more support for professionals about how they adapt and how they adopt this. Some guidance on skills and what you invest in and how you grow a base of people who can really execute on this well. And I'd also like a bit of a sense of how could you work in a bit more of a modern way? How could you use data? If you think about the same products being bought in 300 local authorities, how do you share the data across that to make sure that everyone's getting good value out of it? How do you get to that position? We live in a world of technology. I think you could adopt that to get much better outcomes out of the Procurement Act. So I think what would I build on it? I wouldn't add more into the Act because, frankly, I think there's quite enough in there. I would put more effort into the implementation of it because that's what's going to make it succeed or fail.
And on that bombshell, we all now know everything about the Procurement Act. They were great questions this time, weren't they, Ed?
Oh, they were super duper.
So thanks to Verity, and thanks to Graeme for your time.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Ta-ta.
Ta-ra.
Yeah.